In a silent studio, one trembling lyric turns music into confession, unveiling hidden love, fear, and a truth that changes everything. Stop, stop, everything. The conductor's baton froze midair, trembling between authority and confusion as the orchestra dissolved into an abrupt, breathless silence. The last echo of violins lingered like a ghost in the cavernous recording hall, fading into nothingness. Jungkook stood at the center of it all, headphones slightly askew, chest rising too fast for a rehearsal that had been flawless just seconds ago. His voice had cut through the symphony like a blade, urgent, raw, and completely unplanned. No one moved. The cellists held their bows suspended above strings. The brass section stared, lips still pressed to cold metal. Even the air itself seemed to hesitate. Again, the conductor said cautiously, lowering his baton, "From measure 72. Jungkook shook his head. "No, not again." His voice cracked, softer now but somehow heavier. "Just give me a second." From behind the glass of the control room, producers exchanged uncertain glances. Red recording lights still glowed, indifferent to human tension. Jimin noticed first. He had been watching Jungkook long before the interruption, watching the subtle shifts, the barely there tremor in his hands, the way he avoided eye contact during the last take. Others might have dismissed it as fatigue. Jimin didn't. He knew Jungkook too well. "Hey," Jimin called gently, stepping closer. His sneakers echoed softly against the polished wooden floor. "What's wrong?" Jungkook didn't answer immediately. He stared down at the microphone as if it held something dangerous, something he wasn't sure he could face. The silence stretched. Then, without warning, Jungkook lifted his head. "Can we do it without the orchestra?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. A ripple of confusion spread across the room. "This is an orchestral track," one of the producers said through the intercom, trying to keep his tone neutral. "The arrangement depends on—" "I know," Jungkook interrupted, sharper this time. Then softer, almost pleading, "Please, just one take." The conductor hesitated, then slowly lowered his baton completely. "Everyone, take 5." Chairs creaked. Instruments were carefully set down. Musicians exchanged curious glances but complied, filing out of the hall with quiet professionalism. Within moments, the grand space that had been alive with sound was stripped down to its bare essence. Just Jungkook. Just the microphone. And Jimin. Jimin didn't leave. He stayed where he was, a few steps away, arms loosely crossed, but eyes locked on Jungkook with a focus that bordered on concern. "What are you doing?" Jimin asked, quieter now. Jungkook swallowed. "I need to get it right. That last take was perfect." Jungkook let out a hollow laugh. "Technically, yeah." Jimin tilted his head slightly. "Then what's missing?" Jungkook didn't answer right away. Instead, he closed his eyes, pressing the headphones back into place. His fingers tightened around them as if grounding himself. "You ever feel like," Jungkook began slowly, "you've been saying something for a long time, but no one hears it the way you mean it?" Jimin's expression shifted, something softer, more alert. "Yeah," he said, "all the time." Jungkook nodded faintly, as if that confirmation both comforted and unsettled him. "This song," Jungkook continued, voice barely audible, "it's not just a song." Jimin almost smiled. "It never is with you." But Jungkook didn't smile back. "It's something I've been trying to say." A beat passed. "To who?" Jimin asked. Jungkook opened his eyes. And for a split second, just a second, he looked directly at Jimin. The kind of look that felt like standing too close to the edge of something irreversible. Then Jungkook turned away. "Just listen," he said. The producer's voice crackled softly through the intercom. "We are still rolling." Jungkook nodded. The red light blinked. "Recording. No orchestra. No backing track. Just silence." Jungkook stepped closer to the microphone. The polished metal reflected fragments of him, eyes darker than usual, lips pressed together, something unspoken flickering beneath the surface. He inhaled. It wasn't a singer's breath. It was the kind of breath someone takes before jumping. Then he sang. Just one line. His voice trembled, not with weakness, but with something far more dangerous, honesty stripped of protection. I've been hiding in your shadow, hoping you'd see me anyway. The words hung in the air, fragile and heavy all at once. Jimin felt it before he understood it. A shift. A crack in something he hadn't realized was solid. His chest tightened. Because that line, it wasn't part of the original lyrics. He knew the song. He had practiced it with Jungkook countless times. That line didn't exist. Jungkook opened his eyes slowly, as if bracing for impact. And this time, he didn't look away. He looked straight at Jimin. The silence that followed was louder than any orchestra. Jimin's mind raced, piecing together fragments, late-night rehearsals that lingered too long, the way Jungkook always found reasons to stay close, the subtle hesitations, the unspoken tension that had woven itself quietly between them over months, maybe longer. Jungkook, Jimin said, voice barely steady. But Jungkook shook his head, a small, almost desperate motion. Don't, he whispered. The word carried more weight than a refusal. It sounded like fear. Jimin took a step closer anyway. You changed the lyrics. Jungkook let out a breath that sounded like it had been trapped for years. Yeah. Why? Jungkook hesitated. And in that hesitation lived everything: fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood, fear of breaking something that had always been safe. I couldn't keep pretending, Jungkook said finally. The words landed softly, but their meaning cut deep. Jimin's heart pounded, loud enough he was sure Jungkook could hear it. Pretending what? Jungkook laughed again, quieter this time, almost broken. You really don't see it. Jimin didn't answer. Because suddenly he did. Not in a clear, logical way, but in the way emotions sometimes arrive all at once, undeniable and overwhelming. Jungkook stepped back slightly, as if putting distance between them could soften what was about to come next. It's easier when there's music, Jungkook said. When everything's loud, you can hide behind it. He gestured vaguely toward the empty space where the orchestra had been. But when it's quiet, his voice faltered, there's nowhere to hide. Jimin swallowed hard. You stopped the music, he said slowly. Jungkook nodded. Yeah. Why now? That question lingered between them, fragile and sharp. Jungkook's gaze dropped for a moment before rising again, steadier this time. Because if I didn't say it now, he said, I never would. Jimin felt something shift inside him, something that had been waiting, unnoticed, for far too long. The room felt smaller. The silence heavier. Say what? Jimin asked, even though part of him already knew. Jungkook's lips parted. Closed. Then opened again. But instead of speaking, he stepped forward, back toward the microphone. As if the only way he could say it was through music. Even without the orchestra. Even without protection. He adjusted the headphones again, hands still trembling slightly. Just listen, he said one more time. The red light blinked again. Still recording. Jungkook closed his eyes. And this time, when he sang, his voice didn't just carry sound. It carried truth. Raw. Unfiltered. Unavoidable. And Jimin stood there, unable to move, as he realized that this wasn't just a song anymore. It was a confession that had been waiting, hidden between melodies, buried under harmonies, disguised as art. Until now. Until silence forced it into the open. And nothing would ever sound the same again, The silence didn't break, it fractured. You think you can just drop something like that in the middle of a recording? Jimin's voice rose, sharp enough to echo against the high studio walls. In front of everyone, without warning. Jungkook pulled the headphones off slowly, as if delaying the inevitable. I didn't plan it. That makes it worse. Jungkook flinched. The control room lights flickered as someone moved behind the glass, but no one dared interrupt. The tension inside the recording hall had become something volatile, something no producer could edit out. Jimin ran a hand through his hair, packing now restless energy building in every step. You rewrote the song, you stopped the entire orchestra, and then you just, what, expected me to understand. I didn't expect anything, Jungkook snapped back, his voice suddenly stronger, defensive. I just couldn't keep it in anymore. Jimin stopped packing. Keep what in? Jungkook's jaw tightened. You know what? No, Jimin shot back immediately. I don't, because if I did, we wouldn't be standing here like this. A beat of silence. Then Jungkook laughed bitterly. That's exactly the problem. Jimin's expression darkened. Don't do that. Do what? Talk like I'm supposed to read your mind. Jungkook stepped closer, frustration simmering beneath his skin. I've been anything but subtle. Jimin let out a disbelieving exhale. Subtle? Jungkook, you call this subtle? You just turned a professional recording session into a confession I didn't even agree to be part of. The words hit harder than intended. Jungkook's shoulders stiffened. I didn't ask you to agree. No, you didn't ask me anything, Jimin replied, voice dropping, quieter but more cutting. That's the issue. Jungkook hesitated. For a moment, the anger faltered, replaced by something more fragile. I thought, Jungkook started, then stopped. Jimin waited, but his patience was wearing thin. You thought what? Jungkook looked away, his voice softer now. I thought maybe you felt it too. That landed differently. Jimin's breath caught, not dramatically, not visibly, but enough. You don't get to assume that, Jimin said after a pause, though his tone lacked the earlier sharpness. You don't get to build something in your head and then throw it at me like it's real. Jungkook's eyes snapped back to him. It is real. For you, Jimin corrected. Another silence. Heavier this time. Jungkook took a step back, as if the space between them had suddenly become necessary. Do you have any idea how long I've been trying to figure this out? Jungkook said, voice quieter, but steady. How long I've been trying to ignore it. Jimin didn't respond. Because something in Jungkook's tone made it impossible to interrupt. I told myself it was nothing, Jungkook continued. Just admiration, comfort, habit, but it didn't go away. His hands curled into fists at his sides. It got worse. Jimin swallowed. Worse, he echoed. Jungkook nodded faintly, a humorless smile touching his lips. Yeah, because every time you smiled at me like it was nothing, it felt like everything. Jimin looked away first this time. The weight of those words settled somewhere deep, somewhere uncomfortable. You should have told me, Jimin said, but it came out weaker than he intended. I just did. No, before this, Jimin insisted, turning back to him. Not like this, not in the middle of work, not with everyone watching. I couldn't, Jungkook cut in, sharper again, because if I said it out loud, it would become real, and if it became real, I could lose you. That hung between them. Raw. Unavoidable. Jimin's expression shifted, something softer flickering beneath the frustration. You don't lose people just because you tell the truth. Jungkook let out a quiet, almost hollow laugh. That's not how it works. Jimin took a step closer again, slower this time. Then explain it to me. Jungkook hesitated. His gaze dropped briefly to the floor before rising again, meeting Jimin's eyes with something unguarded. You're everything I rely on, Jungkook said. You're the person I go to when things fall apart, when I don't understand myself, when I can't breathe. Jimin's chest tightened. And if I told you this, Jungkook continued, voice barely above a whisper, and you didn't feel the same, that changes everything. I lose that, I lose you. Jimin opened his mouth to respond, but no words came. Because Jungkook wasn't wrong. Things would change. They already had. You should have trusted me enough to let me decide that, Jimin said finally. Jungkook's eyes softened, regret flickering across his face. I know. The air between them shifted again, less explosive, more fragile. Then why now? Jimin asked, quieter now. Why today? Jungkook glanced toward the empty space where the orchestra had been. Because pretending started to feel worse than losing you. That answer hit deeper than anything else. Jimin looked at him for a long moment, searching, processing, trying to untangle the knot forming inside his chest. You think this is easy for me? Jimin said suddenly, his voice tightening again, not in anger, but in something closer to overwhelm. You think I can just hear something like that and know what to do? I don't expect you to, Jungkook replied quickly. Then what do you expect? Jimin pressed. Because right now, it feels like you just handed me something I didn't ask for and told me to carry it. Jungkook shook his head. I didn't want to burden you. Too late. The word lingered. Not cruel, just honest. Jungkook exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. I just needed you to know. Jimin stuttered him. The vulnerability. The fear. The quiet determination. You're serious, Jimin said, almost to himself. Jungkook didn't hesitate. Yeah. That certainty made everything harder. Jimin turned away, packing again, but slower this time, his thoughts visibly colliding with each step. This changes things, he said. I know. I don't know how to respond to this. You don't have to right now. Jimin stopped. Turned back. Don't say that like it's simple. It's not, Jungkook admitted, but I'm not asking you for an answer today. Then what are you asking for? Jungkook hesitated. Then quietly, a chance. Jimin's brows furrowed. A chance for what? For you to think about it, Jungkook said. For me to not hide anymore, for us to figure out what this means. Jimin let out a slow breath, tension still coiled in his shoulders. You're asking a lot. I know. And you're risking everything. I know that too. Jimin looked at him for a long moment. Then softer, you're reckless. Jungkook gave a small, almost relieved smile. Yeah. Another silence, but this one felt different. Less like a standoff. More like a threshold. Jimin exhaled, some of the tension finally slipping from his posture. I'm not promising anything, he said carefully. I'm not asking you to. I need time. Take it. Jimin nodded faintly, though his expression remained complicated, conflicted. Okay. Jungkook's shoulders relaxed slightly, as if that single word had lifted something heavy off his chest. But the air between them was still charged, still uncertain. Still shifting. From the control room, a hesitant voice finally broke through the intercom. Are we continuing the session? Jimin let out a quiet, almost incredulous laugh, rubbing the back of his neck. Jungkook glanced toward the microphone. Then back at Jimin. Do you want to? Jungkook asked. Jimin hesitated. Then, after a moment, he nodded slowly. Yeah, he said, but no more surprises. Jungkook smiled faintly, no promises. Jimin rolled his eyes, but there was something softer there now. Something unresolved. Something beginning. As the orchestra slowly filtered back into the room, instruments in hand and curiosity barely concealed, the music prepared to resume. But nothing about it would be the same. Because now, every note carried something more. Something unspoken. Something waiting. And even as the conductor raised his baton once more, Jimin couldn't shake the echo of that single trembling line. And the truth hidden inside it that refused to fade. The first note after the silence felt wrong. Not technically wrong, the violins entered perfectly on cue, the cellos followed with a rich, grounding hum, but something inside the music had shifted, like a heartbeat out of rhythm. Jimin felt it immediately. He stood beside Jungkook again, headphones on, posture composed, expression controlled, but his mind was nowhere near the score in front of him. Focus, the conductor called, baton slicing cleanly through the air. Jungkook sang. Flawless. Controlled. Professional. As if nothing had happened. And somehow that made it worse. Jimin's grip tightened around his own headphones. His eyes flickered sideways for just a second, just enough to catch Jungkook's expression. Empty. Or maybe guarded. The rawness from earlier, that trembling honesty was gone, replaced by precision, by perfection. By distance. Guarded. The conductor lowered his baton, frowning slightly. That was good, but something's missing. Jimin almost laughed under his breath. Something's missing. Yeah. Everything. Let's take it from the bridge again, the producer's voice came through the intercom. We need more emotion there. Jungkook nodded immediately. Got it. Of course he did. Jimin pulled his headphones down slowly, letting them rest around his neck. No, he said. The word wasn't loud. But it was enough. The room stilled again, not as dramatically as before, but with a quieter kind of tension. The conductor blinked. Excuse me. I said no, Jimin repeated, stepping forward slightly. We're not doing it again like this. Jungkook's head turned toward him, eyes narrowing just a fraction. Jimin. No, Jimin cut him off, sharper this time. You don't get to just switch it off like that. A murmur rippled faintly through the orchestra. The producer's voice crackled again, more cautious now. Is there a problem? Yes, Jimin said without hesitation. No, Jungkook said at the exact same time. Their voices collided. Jimin let out a short, disbelieving breath. You just poured your heart out 5 minutes ago, and now you're acting like a machine. Which one is real? Jungkook's jaw tightened. This is work. That wasn't work, Jimin shot back. A beat. Jungkook's eyes hardened slightly. You said you needed time. I'm giving you time. By pretending nothing happened. By not forcing you to deal with it in front of everyone, Jungkook snapped. That hit. Jimin paused. But only for a second. You think this is better, Jimin gestured around them. You think standing here, acting like strangers, is somehow easier. Jungkook took a step closer, lowering his voice, though the intensity didn't drop. I'm trying to protect you. From what? Jimin challenged. From this, Jungkook said, almost desperate now. From people watching, from questions, from things getting out of control. Or from yourself, Jimin cut in. Silence. Jungkook froze. And that hesitation, that fraction of a second, said more than any answer could. Jimin's expression shifted, something sharper, more probing. You're scared. Jungkook's eyes flashed. Of course I am. Then don't hide behind the music, Jimin said. You already broke that barrier. Jungkook ran a hand through his hair, frustration bleeding through. You're not making this easier. I'm not trying to make it easier, Jimin replied. I'm trying to make it real. The producer cleared his throat awkwardly through the intercom. Should we take a break? Neither of them answered. Because neither of them wanted to back down. Jungkook stepped even closer now, his voice low but intense. You said you needed time, so take it, but don't stand here and demand that I stay exposed while you figure things out. Jimin held his gaze, unflinching. You don't get to decide when to be vulnerable and when to shut it off. I'm not shutting it off, Jungkook insisted. Then what is this? Jimin gestured toward the microphone, the orchestra, the entire setup, because it looks like you're hiding again. Jungkook's expression cracked, just slightly. I'm holding it together, he said. For who? For everyone, Jungkook shot back louder now. For the people in this room, for the work we're doing. And not for me, Jimin interrupted. That question landed hard. Jungkook stared at him, something conflicted flickering across his face. You're the reason I'm trying to keep this together, Jungkook said finally, quieter now. Jimin's breath caught. Then stop lying, Jimin said. I'm not lying. Yes, you are, Jimin insisted. You're pretending you can separate this from everything else. You can't. Jungkook exhaled sharply, turning away for a moment before facing him again. What do you want from me? Jimin didn't hesitate this time. Be honest, he said, not just in one line, not just in one moment, all the way. Jungkook laughed under his breath, but there was no humor in it. You think I can just stand here and say everything I feel, just like that? You already started. That was different. How? Jungkook opened his mouth, then stopped. Because he didn't have an answer. Jimin stepped closer again, his voice softer now, but no less intense. You don't get to run halfway. I'm not running. You are, Jimin said firmly. You opened the door, and now you're trying to control what comes through it. Jungkook looked at him, really looked this time, and something shifted again, less defensive, more raw. You want honesty, Jungkook said. Yes. Fine. Jungkook took a breath, his hands clenching at his sides. I hate this, he said. Jimin blinked. Hate what? This feeling, Jungkook continued, voice tightening. Not knowing what you're thinking, not knowing if I just ruined everything, standing this close to you and not knowing if I should step closer or walk away. Jimin didn't move. Didn't speak. I hate that you can look at me like nothing's changed, Jungkook went on, more quietly now, when for me, everything has. That hit deeper than anything before. Jimin's composure faltered just slightly. You think nothing's changed for me, Jimin said. Jungkook hesitated. I don't know, he admitted. Jimin let out a slow breath, running a hand over his face. That's the problem, you don't know, and you didn't give me a chance to prepare for this. I told you I didn't plan it. I know, Jimin said quickly, and that's what makes it harder. A pause. Long. Heavy. I'm trying to understand this, Jimin said, quieter now. I really am. Jungkook's gaze softened just a little. I know. But you're asking me to catch up to something you've been feeling for how long? Jungkook didn't answer immediately. Too long, he said finally. Jimin nodded faintly, absorbing that. Then give me space to get there, Jimin said. I am. No, Jimin shook his head. You're giving me silence. That's not the same thing. Jungkook frowned slightly. What do you mean? I mean, Jimin said, choosing his words carefully, don't shut me out while I'm trying to understand you. Jungkook's expression shifted again, something softer, more open. I'm not shutting you out, he said. Then don't disappear behind this, Jimin gestured again to the performance space. Jungkook looked at him for a long moment. Then slowly, he nodded. Okay. The word felt different this time. Real. Jimin exhaled, some of the tension easing from his shoulders. Okay, he echoed. From the control room, the producer spoke again, hesitant but hopeful. So, are we continuing? Jimin glanced at Jungkook. Jungkook met his gaze. And this time, there was no distance. Yeah, Jungkook said, we are. But as the orchestra prepared once more, as instruments lifted and the conductor raised his baton, something had undeniably changed. Not just in the music, but between them. Because now, every word carried weight. Every glance held meaning. And every note they created together was no longer just performance. It was something dangerously close to truth. The music didn't save them. It exposed them. By the time the final note dissolved into the air, no one in the room dared to speak. The orchestra sat frozen, bows hovering, instruments still vibrating faintly as if they too sensed something fragile had just been pushed too far. Jungkook lowered his head slightly, breathing uneven beneath the weight of it all. "Got to." The conductor's voice came softer this time, uncertain, almost reluctant. We got it." But no one moved. Jimin stood rigid a few feet away, his heartbeat loud in his ears, louder than the orchestra had been. He had tried to focus, tried to let the music carry him through, but every lyric Jungkook sang felt like it was aimed directly at him, like a quiet insistence that refused to fade. And now that it was over, the silence returned. Only this time, it was unbearable. "Take 5, the producer said through the intercom, voice carefully neutral. Chairs shifted, musicians stood, some exchanging looks that were no longer just curious, they were knowing. Whispers lingered, quiet but sharp enough to be felt. Jimin noticed. Of course he did. And something inside him snapped. "Did you tell anyone?" Jimin's voice cut through the room, low but intense. Jungkook's head lifted immediately. "What?" "Did you tell anyone?" Jimin repeated, stepping closer. "Before this, about this?" Jungkook frowned, confusion flickering. "No, why would I?" "Because they're looking," Jimin said, glancing briefly toward the orchestra as a few people quickly looked away. "Like they know something." Jungkook followed his gaze, then shook his head. "They don't know anything." "Then why does it feel like they do?" Jimin pressed. "Because you're panicking," Jungkook shot back, his tone tightening, "and you're projecting it onto everyone else." Jimin's jaw clenched. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Act like I'm overreacting." Jungkook stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You are overreacting." Jimin let out a short, incredulous laugh. "Of course I am, because apparently I'm the only one here who understands how serious this is." Jungkook's eyes flashed. "You think I do?" "I think you're not thinking about the consequences," Jimin replied immediately. "You just felt something and decided that was enough." "That's not fair." "It's true." The words landed hard. Jungkook's expression shifted, frustration rising again. "You think I didn't think about this? You think I didn't go over every possible outcome in my head 100 times before this?" "Then why here?" Jimin challenged. "Why now? Why like this?" Jungkook hesitated. "Because there was no perfect answer." "Because I couldn't breathe anymore," Jungkook said finally, his voice raw again. "Because every time I stood next to you and said nothing, it felt like I was lying." Jimin's expression faltered, just slightly. "That doesn't mean you get to force the truth out in the worst possible moment," Jimin said, quieter now, but no less intense. "I didn't force anything," Jungkook insisted. "You stopped everything," Jimin shot back. "You changed the lyrics, you looked straight at me, what do you call that?" Jungkook opened his mouth, then stopped. Because Jimin wasn't wrong. The tension between them tightened again, pulling them closer to something neither of them fully understood yet. "You could have waited," Jimin said. "For what?" Jungkook asked. "For a moment that didn't involve an entire room full of people." "There is no perfect moment," Jungkook snapped. "There's always going to be a reason not to say it." Jimin ran a hand through his hair, packing again, frustration building. "This isn't just about saying it. This is about everything that comes after." "I know that." "No, you don't," Jimin said sharply, "because if you did, you wouldn't look so calm right now." Jungkook stared at him, disbelief flashing across his face. "Calm." "Yes," Jimin said. "You said what you needed to say, you got it out, and now I'm the one stuck dealing with it." Jungkook's expression hardened. "You think this is easier for me now?" "I think you relieved yourself," Jimin replied, and left me with the weight of it. That accusation cut deeper than anything before. Jungkook took a step back, as if physically struck. That's not what I did. Then what did you do? Jimin demanded. Jungkook's voice rose, emotion breaking through. I trusted you. The room seemed to still again. Even the distant whispers faded. Jimin froze. You think that was easy? Jungkook continued, his voice shaking now, not with fear, but with something closer to anger. Standing there, saying something I've never said out loud before, knowing you might look at me differently after. Jimin's breath caught. I didn't do that to make things easier for me, Jungkook said. I did it because I couldn't keep pretending with you, because you matter too much to me for that. The words hit harder this time. Not just because of what they meant, but because of how real they sounded. Jimin's anger wavered, colliding with something more complicated. Then why does it feel like you put me in a corner? Jimin asked, quieter now. Jungkook's expression softened slightly. That wasn't my intention. But it's what happened, Jimin said. A pause. Heavy. Honest. Jungkook nodded slowly. Then I'm sorry. Jimin blinked. He hadn't expected that. I'm sorry for how it came out, Jungkook continued. For the timing, for making it harder for you. Jimin studied him carefully, searching for anything that felt insincere. There was nothing. Just raw, uncomfortable honesty. But I'm not sorry for feeling it, Jungkook added. Of course he was. Jimin exhaled slowly, some of the tension leaving his shoulders, but not all of it. I don't know what to do with this, Jimin admitted. Jungkook nodded, you don't have to know yet. But that doesn't stop it from changing things, Jimin said. I know. Another silence fell between them. But this one felt different again. Less explosive. More uncertain. More real. From across the room, a quiet laugh broke through the tension. Both of them turned. One of the violinists quickly covered her mouth, pretending to adjust her instrument, but the damage was done. Jimin's expression tightened immediately. There, he said under his breath, you see that? Jungkook glanced briefly, then looked back at Jimin. They're just curious. They're not just curious, Jimin replied. They're watching us. So let them, Jungkook said. Jimin stared at him. You're unbelievable. What? Jungkook asked, frustration rising again. Why does it matter so much what they think? Because this isn't just us, Jimin said, voice tightening. We don't exist in a vacuum. There are expectations, reputations, things we can't just ignore. And that's more important than this, Jungkook cut in. Jimin hesitated. And that hesitation said everything. Jungkook's expression shifted, something hurt flickering beneath the surface. Wow, he said quietly. That's not what I meant, Jimin said quickly. Then what did you mean? Jungkook pressed. I mean it's complicated, Jimin said, struggling to find the right words. It's not just about how I feel, it's about everything around us. Jungkook shook his head slowly. So you're saying even if you did feel something, you wouldn't act on it? Jimin didn't answer immediately. And that silence felt louder than anything he could have said. Jungkook looked away, jaw tightening. Got it, he muttered. That's not fair, Jimin said, stepping closer again. You're twisting it. I'm not twisting anything, Jungkook replied. I'm just listening to what you're not saying. Jimin's frustration flared again. You're making assumptions. Then correct me, Jungkook challenged. Jimin opened his mouth. But no words came. Because the truth wasn't simple. And that was the problem. Jungkook let out a quiet, bitter laugh. Yeah, that's what I thought. Stop, Jimin said, sharper now. You don't get to act like you already know the outcome. I don't, Jungkook replied, but I know hesitation when I see it. Jimin stepped even closer, closing the space between them entirely now. and you think I don't see yours. Jungkook frowned. What hesitation? The part where you're already bracing for rejection, Jimin said. The part where you're pushing me to respond faster because you're scared of waiting. Jungkook's expression shifted. Because that was true. I'm not pushing you, Jungkook said, though it sounded less certain now. You are, Jimin insisted. Every time you look at me like that, every time you expect an answer I'm not ready to give. Jungkook exhaled slowly, tension pulling at his features. I'm not expecting anything. Then stop asking questions that sound like ultimatums. A long pause. Then Jungkook nodded slightly. Okay. The word came quieter this time. Mori restrained. Jimin studied him for a moment, then let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. We're not finished with this, Jimin said. I know. But we can't keep doing it like this either. I know that too. Another silence settled, but this one felt like a fragile agreement rather than a breaking point. From the control room, the producer's voice returned, cautious but hopeful. Should we wrap for today? Jimin glanced at Jungkook. Jungkook met his gaze. For a moment, everything else faded. The orchestra, the room, the watching eyes. Just them. And the mess between them. Yeah, Jimin said finally. Jungkook nodded, yeah. As the room slowly came back to life, as instruments were packed away and quiet conversations resumed, the tension didn't disappear. It followed them. Out of the studio. Into the hallway. Into the spaces where silence would no longer be enough to hide what had already been said. Because now the truth was out. And neither of them knew what it would cost. The hallway outside the studio felt colder than it should have. Jimin pushed the door open harder than necessary, the sound echoing sharply behind him as he stepped into the dim corridor. The muffled noise of the orchestra packing up faded instantly, replaced by a suffocating quiet that somehow felt more intense than the chaos inside. Jimin, wait. Jungkook's voice followed him, closer than expected. Jimin didn't stop walking. Jimin. This time, there was urgency in it. Jimin halted abruptly, turning so fast the movement felt almost like a challenge. What? Jungkook stopped a few steps away, breathing slightly heavier, as if he had rushed without realizing it. You can't just walk away like that, Jungkook said. Jimin let out a short, sharp laugh. I can't. That's funny, because you just dropped a confession on me in front of an entire orchestra, and now you're telling me what I can and can't do. Jungkook's jaw tightened. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Jimin shot back. I mean this, Jungkook said, stepping closer, lowering his voice. You keep running every time it gets too real. Jimin's expression hardened instantly. Don't. Don't what? Don't act like I'm the one avoiding this, Jimin said, voice rising. You're the one who hid it for how long, and now suddenly I'm the problem because I need time to process it. Jungkook exhaled sharply. Frustration building again. I didn't say you were the problem. You implied it. I said you're running. I'm trying to breathe, Jimin snapped. The words hung there, heavier than expected. Jungkook's expression faltered for a moment, something softer breaking through the tension. Then breathe, Jungkook said, quieter now, but don't shut me out while you do it. Jimin looked at him, really looked at him, and something inside him twisted uncomfortably. You don't get it, Jimin said, his voice lower now but strained. You think this is just about feelings, it's not. Then what is it about? Jungkook challenged. Jimin hesitated, then gestured vaguely, frustration spilling over. Everything us, work, people watching, expectations, the fact that one wrong move can. Can what? Jungkook cut in. Ruin things, Jimin said. Jungkook let out a quiet, disbelieving breath. You really think this is something that just ruins things? I think it can, Jimin replied honestly. That honesty hit harder than anger ever could. Jungkook looked away for a moment, jaw tight, as if holding something back. "So what?" Jungkook said after a beat, voice quieter but sharper. "You'd rather nothing change. You'd rather we just pretend this doesn't exist." Jimin didn't answer immediately, because part of him wanted exactly that. "I didn't say that," Jimin said finally. "But you didn't say you don't want that either," Jungkook pressed. Jimin's frustration flared again. "Why are you doing this?" "Doing what?" "Pushing me," Jimin said, "cornering me into saying something I'm not ready to say." Jungkook stepped closer, tension radiating off him. "I'm not cornering you, I'm asking you to be honest." "I am being honest." "No," Jungkook said, shaking his head. "You're being careful, there's a difference." Jimin froze. Because that was true. "I have to be careful," Jimin said, his voice tightening again. "You don't understand what's at stake." "Then explain it to me," Jungkook said immediately. Jimin hesitated, and that hesitation stretched. Jungkook's eyes searched his face, something impatient, something vulnerable flickering beneath the surface. "Say it." Jimin looked away. "That's what I thought," Jungkook muttered. "Stop doing that," Jimin snapped, turning back sharply. "Stop acting like you already know everything I'm thinking." "Then tell me," Jungkook's voice rose, the frustration finally breaking through fully. "Because from where I'm standing, it feels like you're more afraid of what people will say than what this actually is." "That's not true." "Then prove it." Jimin's breath caught. "You can't," Jungkook said, quieter now, but no less intense. "Because you're already thinking about the consequences before you even think about me." "That's not fair," Jimin said, but his voice lacked conviction. Jungkook stepped even closer, close enough that the space between them felt charged. "Then what is it, Jimin?" Jimin held his gaze, something conflicted and raw surfacing. "You want the truth," Jimin said. "Yes." Jimin exhaled slowly, like he was about to step into something dangerous. "I don't know what I feel," he admitted. Jungkook's expression shifted, just slightly. "And that terrifies me," Jimin continued, voice quieter now, "because if I start thinking about it seriously, I don't know where it leads." Jungkook swallowed, the tension in his shoulders easing just a fraction. "That's not a rejection." "I didn't say it was," Jimin replied quickly, "but it's not an answer either." "I'm not asking for a final answer," Jungkook said. "Then stop making it feel like one," Jimin shot back. A beat of silence. Then Jungkook nodded faintly. "Okay." Jimin blinked, slightly thrown off by the sudden shift. "I mean it," Jungkook added. "I'll stop pushing." Jimin studied him, searching for the catch. "There isn't one," Jungkook said, as if reading his thoughts. "You said you need time, I'll give you time." Jimin's shoulders relaxed slightly, but the tension didn't disappear completely. "Thank you," Jimin said quietly. Jungkook nodded, but something in his expression remained unsettled. "But don't ask me to pretend nothing changed," Jungkook added. Jimin hesitated. "I won't." "Good." Another silence fell between them, but this one felt less explosive, more fragile. Then, a sharp click. Both of them turned instinctively. At the far end of the hallway, a door closed quickly. Too quickly. Jimin's eyes narrowed. "Did you see that?" Jungkook frowned slightly. "Yeah." A moment passed. Then Jimin's expression shifted, something uneasy creeping in. "We're not alone." Jungkook glanced back toward the door that had just shut. "You think someone was listening?" Jimin didn't answer right away. But the look on his face said enough. "Great," Jungkook muttered under his breath. Jimin ran a hand through his hair, frustration returning in a different form now. "This is exactly what I was talking about." "Hey," Jungkook said quickly, "we don't even know if they heard anything." "They heard enough," Jimin replied. "People always hear enough." The tension shifted again, less about them, more about everything surrounding them. This is going to spread, Jimin said, quieter now, almost to himself. Jungkook's expression hardened slightly. Let it. Jimin looked at him sharply. You can't be serious. I am, Jungkook said. I'm done hiding. Jimin stared at him, disbelief mixing with something else, something harder to define. You're really okay with that? Jimin asked. Jungkook hesitated. Just for a second. Not okay, he admitted, but I'm not going to let fear control this. Jimin let out a slow breath, conflicted. You make it sound so simple, he said. It's not simple, Jungkook replied. It's just honest. Jimin looked at him for a long moment. Then, quietly, honesty has consequences. Jungkook nodded, I know. And you're ready for that. Another pause. Then Jungkook said, I think I have to be. Jimin's chest tightened again. Because that meant this wasn't going away. Not quietly. Not easily. And definitely not without impact. The hallway felt smaller now, the walls closing in slightly as the weight of everything settled. Let's just go, Jimin said finally. Jungkook nodded, yeah. They walked side by side, not touching, not speaking, but the tension between them still alive, still unresolved. And somewhere behind them, unseen but very real, the echo of what had been said lingered. Waiting. To be heard by more than just the two of them, the parking lot was too quiet. Jimin stopped walking the moment the cold night air hit his face, as if stepping outside had forced reality to settle in all at once. The city lights flickered in the distance, indifferent, while the faint hum of traffic barely reached them. Jungkook slowed beside him. Neither of them spoke. But the silence didn't feel empty, it felt loaded, like something inevitable was about to happen whether they wanted it or not. You felt it too, didn't you? Jungkook's voice broke the quiet, low but direct. Jimin didn't look at him, felt what? Someone listening. Jimin exhaled slowly, tension tightening in his chest again. Yeah. A beat. This is exactly what I was trying to avoid, Jimin added. Jungkook leaned back slightly against the car, arms crossing, his gaze fixed on Jimin. And what exactly were you trying to avoid? Jimin turned sharply. This, exposure, complications, people turning something personal into gossip. Jungkook's expression hardened slightly. So that's what this is to you now, something embarrassing. That's not what I said. But it's what you're implying, Jungkook shot back. Jimin let out a frustrated breath. Why do you keep twisting everything I say? Because you won't just say what you actually mean, Jungkook replied. Jimin stepped closer, irritation flaring. Fine, you want honesty, I'm scared. Jungkook blinked, caught off guard by the sudden directness. Not of you, Jimin continued quickly. Not of what you feel. I'm scared of everything that comes with it. Jungkook's posture shifted slightly, less defensive now. Like what? Jimin laughed bitterly, gesturing vaguely around them. Like this, like someone overhearing, and suddenly, it's not just ours anymore. Like people talking, speculating, making assumptions, like losing control over something that was supposed to be private. Jungkook watched him closely, absorbing every word. And you think hiding it would have solved that? Jungkook asked. No, Jimin admitted, but it would have delayed it. Jungkook let out a quiet breath, shaking his head. You can't delay something like this forever. I wasn't trying to do it forever, Jimin snapped. I just wanted time to understand it before it became real. It was always real, Jungkook said. Jimin froze. Because that, again, was true. You just didn't see it yet, Jungkook added, softer now. Jimin looked away, jaw tightening. That doesn't make it easier. I know, Jungkook said quietly. A pause settled between them, but it wasn't peaceful. It was heavy with everything they hadn't resolved yet. Then suddenly, a phone buzzed. Sharp. Intrusive. Jimin's head snapped down as he pulled his phone from his pocket. The screen lit up his face in the dim light. And then everything changed. Jimin's expression went still. Too still. What? Jungkook asked immediately, stepping closer. Jimin didn't answer. His eyes scanned the screen again, as if hoping he'd read it wrong the first time. What is it? Jungkook pressed. Jimin finally turned the phone toward him. A message. No name. Just a number. Didn't know rehearsals came with confessions. You should be more careful. Not everything stays behind closed doors. Jungkook's jaw tightened instantly. Who sent that? I don't know, Jimin said, voice low, controlled, but there was tension underneath it, sharp and rising. Jungkook took the phone, staring at the message, his expression darkening. This is exactly what you were worried about. Jimin let out a shaky breath. Yeah. Jungkook looked back up at him, but this isn't just gossip. No, Jimin said, it's not. Because there was something deliberate about it. Something targeted. Someone heard us, Jungkook said. And decided to say something, Jimin added. Jungkook's eyes narrowed slightly, or threatened something. Jimin's grip tightened around the edge of the car. You think this is a threat? Jungkook held his gaze. What else would it be? Jimin didn't answer. Because deep down, he already knew. The air between them shifted again, tension morphing into something sharper, more dangerous. This is bad, Jimin muttered. Jungkook shook his head. It's manageable. Jimin let out a disbelieving laugh. You think this is manageable? I think panicking won't help, Jungkook replied. I'm not panicking, Jimin snapped. You are, Jungkook said calmly. Jimin stepped closer, frustration boiling over again. Someone is watching us, Jungkook. Someone is listening, and now they're texting me about it. How is that not something to panic about? Because we don't know their intention yet, Jungkook said. And until we do, reacting emotionally gives them control. Jimin stared at him. You sound way too calm about this. Jungkook's expression hardened. I'm not calm, I'm just not letting it control me. Jimin shook his head, running a hand through his hair again. This is exactly what I meant when I said there are consequences. And I told you I know that, Jungkook replied. Do you, Jimin challenged, because this is already spiraling. It's one message, Jungkook said. It's not just a message, Jimin insisted. It's proof that this isn't contained anymore. Jungkook stepped closer, lowering his voice. Then we deal with it. How? Jimin demanded. Jungkook hesitated. And that hesitation was enough. Exactly, Jimin said, quieter now but sharper. You don't know. Jungkook exhaled slowly. We find out who sent it. And then what? Jimin pressed. Confront them, ask them nicely to keep quiet. If we have to, yeah, Jungkook said. Jimin stared at him like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. You really think it's that simple? No, Jungkook admitted, but doing nothing isn't an option either. Jimin's phone buzzed again. Both of them froze. Slowly, Jimin looked down at the screen. Another message. Relax, I'm not your enemy, but secrets like that, they don't stay secrets for long. Jungkook read it over his shoulder, his expression darkening further. They're playing with us. Jimin's chest tightened. This is just someone overhearing. This is intentional. Jungkook nodded slightly. Yeah. Jimin locked his phone, his hand trembling slightly despite his effort to stay composed. We need to figure out who this is. We will, Jungkook said. Jimin looked at him, searching his face for something, certainty, reassurance, anything. What if this gets out? Jimin asked, voice quieter now, more vulnerable. What if this turns into something bigger? Jungkook didn't answer immediately. Because this time, there was no easy reassurance. It might, Jungkook said finally. Jimin's breath hitched. But we'll deal with it together, Jungkook added. Jimin looked at him, something conflicted flickering again. You keep saying that, Jimin said, like it's guaranteed. It's not guaranteed, Jungkook replied. It's a choice. Jimin held his gaze, the weight of that statement settling deep. And you're choosing it, Jimin asked. Jungkook didn't hesitate this time. Yeah. Jimin's chest tightened again. Because that meant Jungkook wasn't backing down. Not from the confession. Not from the consequences. Not from him. Another silence fell, but it wasn't empty. It was filled with everything that was about to unfold. Jimin glanced at his phone again, then back at Jungkook. This changes everything, he said. Jungkook nodded, I know. And for the first time since the message appeared, Jimin didn't argue. Because deep down, he knew it too, the engine didn't start. Jimin's hand stayed frozen on the ignition, fingers curled too tightly around the key, as if turning it would set something irreversible into motion. Start the car. Jungkook's voice came low, steady, but there was tension beneath it. Jimin didn't move. I need to think, he muttered. Jungkook exhaled sharply from the passenger seat. Thinking isn't going to make that message disappear. Jimin turned his head slowly, eyes flashing, and rushing is going to fix it. No, Jungkook shot back, but sitting here pretending we're not being watched definitely won't. That word again. Watched. It pressed down on Jimin's chest like something physical. Stop saying it like that, Jimin snapped. Like what? Like we're already trapped, Jimin said, voice tightening. I'm not giving whoever this is that kind of power. Jungkook leaned forward slightly, his expression hardening. Then prove it. Jimin stared at him. Drive, Jungkook said. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Jimin finally turned the key. The engine roared to life, loud in the otherwise empty parking lot. The headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating a stretch of asphalt that suddenly felt far too exposed. Jimin pulled out without another word. The silence inside the car was worse than before. It wasn't just tension anymore, it was pressure. You're quiet, Jungkook said after a while. Jimin kept his eyes on the road. I'm trying not to say something I'll regret. Jungkook let out a short breath. That hasn't stopped you before. Jimin shot him a sharp look. You want honesty, right? Fine, I'm angry. Jungkook nodded slightly. I figured. I'm angry at you, Jimin continued, voice steady but sharp. I'm angry at whoever sent those messages, and I'm angry at myself for letting this get out of control. Jungkook's gaze didn't leave him. You didn't let this happen alone. That doesn't make me feel better, Jimin replied immediately. A pause. You keep talking like this is something that happened to you, Jungkook said, like you didn't play any part in it. Jimin's grip tightened on the steering wheel. What's that supposed to mean? It means you're not as disconnected from this as you're pretending to be, Jungkook said. Jimin let out a dry laugh. You're unbelievable. Am I wrong? Jungkook pressed. Jimin didn't answer. Because that question cut too close. Jungkook leaned back slightly, watching him carefully. You said you don't know what you feel, but you're reacting like someone who does. That's not fair, Jimin said quickly. It's not fair that I can see it, Jungkook challenged. It's not fair that you keep deciding what I feel before I even understand it myself, Jimin snapped. Jungkook went quiet for a second, then nodded slowly. Okay, then tell me this. Jimin didn't like the shift in his tone. When I said that line, Jungkook continued, voice quieter now, when I looked at you, what did you feel? Jimin's breath caught. The car slowed slightly without him realizing it. He stopped. Because the answer wasn't simple. And saying it out loud would make it real. Exactly, Jungkook murmured. Don't, Jimin warned. Don't what? Don't use my silence against me, Jimin said, his voice tightening again. I'm not using it against you, Jungkook replied. I'm trying to understand it. Jimin shook his head, frustrated. You don't understand it because I don't understand it. Then let yourself, Jungkook said. Jimin scoffed. It's not that easy. It's not supposed to be easy, Jungkook said. It's supposed to be real. Jimin slammed the brakes harder than necessary at a red light. The sudden stop jolted both of them. Real, Jimin repeated, turning to him, eyes burning. You want real? Real is knowing that one message can turn into 100. Real is knowing that if this gets out, it doesn't just affect us, it affects everything around us. Jungkook didn't flinch, and fake is pretending that matters more than what we feel. Jimin's expression hardened. You don't get to decide that. And you don't get to dismiss it, Jungkook shot back. The tension snapped tighter. You think I'm dismissing it, Jimin said, voice rising. I'm the one trying to protect it. By hiding it, Jungkook challenged. By not letting it get destroyed, Jimin corrected. Jungkook leaned closer, his voice dropping but intensifying. Or by not letting yourself face it. Jimin froze. The light turned green. But neither of them moved. Cars behind them honked. Louder. Jimin cursed under his breath and hit the gas again, the car lurching forward. You're pushing me again, Jimin said, quieter now but strained. I told you I wouldn't, Jungkook replied. You are, Jimin insisted, just differently. Jungkook frowned slightly. How? By making everything feel like it has to be decided right now, Jimin said. Jungkook shook his head. That's not what I'm doing. It is, Jimin said, because every conversation turns into this. This what? This pressure, Jimin said. This feeling that if I don't figure it out fast enough, I'm going to lose something. Jungkook went quiet. Because that wasn't entirely wrong. I don't want you to feel like that, Jungkook said finally. Then stop making it feel like there's a deadline, Jimin replied. Jungkook hesitated. There kind of is. Jimin's head snapped toward him. What? Jungkook's jaw tightened slightly. If whoever sent those messages decides to say something, we don't get to control the timing anymore. The words hit hard. Jimin's chest tightened again. So now you're saying I have to figure this out before someone else forces it. I'm saying we might not have a choice, Jungkook replied. Jimin let out a sharp breath, shaking his head. That's exactly what I didn't want. I know, Jungkook said quietly. Then why does it feel like you're okay with it? Jimin demanded. I'm not okay with it, Jungkook said. I'm just not running from it. Jimin laughed bitterly. You call this not running? You're charging straight into something that could blow up everything. And you're standing still hopping it won't, Jungkook shot back. The words hung there, sharp and undeniable. Jimin didn't respond immediately. Because he didn't have a counter for that. The car fell into silence again, the city lights blurring past, as both of them retreated into their own thoughts. Then, Jimin's phone buzzed again. Louder this time. More aggressive. Jimin's heart jumped as he grabbed it. Another message. But this time, it wasn't just text. It was a file. Jungkook leaned closer. What is it? Jimin hesitated. Then tapped it. The audio played instantly. A faint recording. Distorted. But unmistakable. Jungkook's voice. I've been hiding in your shadow, hoping you'd see me anyway. Jimin's blood ran cold. The car swerved slightly before he corrected it. That's, Jimin's voice faltered. That's from the studio. Jungkook's expression darkened immediately. They recorded it. Not officially, Jimin said, panic creeping in now. That's not from the system, that's someone was close. The audio cut off. Another message appeared instantly. Beautiful, right? Imagine if everyone heard it. Jimin's hands tightened around the wheel, knuckles whitening. This isn't just a warning, Jimin said, his voice barely controlled. This is blackmail. Jungkook's jaw clenched. Yeah. The air inside the car turned suffocating. What do we do? Jimin asked, the question slipping out before he could stop it. Jungkook didn't answer immediately. Because now, this wasn't just about feelings anymore. This was a threat. And whatever came next would change everything. The city felt different that night. Even the neon lights looked sharper, harsher, as if they were mocking them. Jimin parked the car in a dimly lit alley, engine still humming, heart still racing, hands trembling slightly even as he tried to steady them. The recording from the studio had changed everything, not just the dynamic between them, but everything that touched their lives, their work, their fragile sense of privacy. Jungkook leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, voice low but sharp. Did you listen to all of it? Jimin shook his head. No, I can't, I don't know if I can handle it yet. Jungkook's eyes didn't leave him. Do you think ignoring it will make it go away? It might make me sane for 5 minutes, Jimin muttered, running a hand through his hair. I can't stop thinking about who did this, how close they were, why they were listening, and why they'd use it against us. Jungkook's hand hovered over his knee, hesitation clear. We deal with it, together. Jimin's jaw tightened. Deal with it how? Confront them, go public, pretend it didn't happen. Jungkook exhaled, running a hand through his own hair, frustration flashing through his eyes. I don't know, but doing nothing isn't an option. And what about us? Jimin said suddenly, voice cracking. What about everything we just opened? Jungkook froze slightly. What about us? He repeated, quieter. Jimin swallowed, the words now tasting like fire. Do you even know what this does to us if someone finds out? People talking, speculation, headlines, rumors. We're not just musicians, we're targets. And this is exactly the kind of thing they'll exploit. Jungkook leaned back against the seat, gaze fixed on the ceiling. And yet you feel it anyway. Jimin's head snapped toward him. What? You felt it when I sang that line, Jungkook said. You couldn't ignore it, you can't. That's why you're panicking now. Jimin laughed bitterly, a short, sharp sound that echoed in the small space. So now you're blaming me for feeling something. No, Jungkook said immediately. I'm telling you I get it, I feel the same way, but we can't let that, he gestured between them, turn into something reckless. Jimin's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Reckless? You call this reckless? You call someone recording us, threatening us with something personal reckless? That's different, Jungkook snapped. That's them, what we feel, what we have, that's ours. Jimin exhaled sharply, leaning back in his seat, face taut. Do you even realize how fragile this is? One wrong move, and it's not just about us anymore. Jungkook's gaze softened slightly, voice dropping. I do. That's why I'm not going anywhere. Not now, not ever. Jimin's heart skipped. You mean that? Yes, Jungkook said, steady and unwavering. I mean it. For a moment, the world outside the car vanished. The threats, the whispers, the potential fallout, all of it melted away. There was just them, and the raw honesty that had been simmering since that first line in the studio. Jimin's lips parted, wanting to say something, anything, but before the words could escape, his phone buzzed again. He looked down, another message, same number, this time a photo. The image made his stomach twist. A screenshot from the studio's control room, a close-up of Jungkook, mid-performance, mid-confession, the exact moment he had looked directly at Jimin. They've been watching this whole time, Jimin whispered, voice trembling. Jungkook's jaw tightened. And now we know it's not just about the recording, it's about us, them targeting us. Jimin's hands shook as he held the phone. I can't just sit here, we have to. Jungkook cut him off, hand landing on his shoulder, firm. Stop, think, reacting will get them what they want. We stay calm, we stay together, and we figure out their game first. Jimin blinked, his pulse racing. Their game, you really think this is a game? It's always a game when people want to control what they can't have, Jungkook replied. We're just pieces on their board. Jimin's chest tightened. And what about us? Are we just pawns too? No, Jungkook said firmly. We're the players. We decide how this ends. Jimin looked at him, disbelief mixing with the surge of adrenaline. And what if someone else decides first? Jungkook's eyes darkened, dangerous. Then we make them regret it. The weight of those words pressed down on Jimin, sharp and electrifying. A part of him panicked. A part of him wanted to scream, to run. But another part, the part that had been quietly building since that first trembling confession, felt something else. Determination. Because whatever came next, whatever firestorm those messages could start, they wouldn't face it separately. Not now, not ever. Jimin finally set his phone down. All right. He said, voice low, resolute. We handle this together, but we have to be smart, no mistakes. Jungkook's lips curled slightly, tension fading just enough to reveal something dangerous, thrilling in its intensity. No mistakes, he agreed. And as the car idled in the shadowed alley, both of them knew the storm wasn't coming, it was already here. And nothing, no whisper, no threat, no rumor, was going to be able to pull them apart. Not if they refused to let it. Because the truth, dangerous, raw and undeniable, was theirs. And they would fight for it. The storm hit hours later, not in thunder or rain, but in the way their world cracked open and then, somehow settled. The messages stopped coming, the threats faded into silence, and the recordings never leaked. Whoever had been watching had underestimated one thing, the bond between them. Jimin and Jungkook sat together in the quiet studio the next morning, the instruments packed away, sunlight spilling through the blinds. No words were necessary. They had survived the chaos, the fear, the raw exposure of their hearts. Jimin finally let out a long breath, shoulders relaxing, tension rolling off him like smoke. We're okay. Jungkook looked at him, something soft and steady in his gaze. We're more than okay, we're unbreakable. Jimin smiled faintly, letting himself lean into that truth. Unbreakable, he repeated, tasting the word, letting it settle between them. And in that quiet, with the city outside continuing to hum, the confession that had once trembled on a single line became something larger, something real, something enduring. No more secrets, no more fear, just them. Finally, together. And for the first time, it felt like freedom.